From Topps comes the all-new digital card collecting app, free to download from iTunes or Google Play. Star Wars Card Trader.
For the first time ever, collect and trade everything from legendary 1977 Star Wars cards to new cards featuring exclusive content from Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
All from the comfort of your mobile devices. Star Wars Card Trader.
These are the cards you're looking for.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z and Corey Clubb, the podcast you're looking for. This is. Yes.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
We've been waiting for you.
The Force is strong here, even stronger than the coffee.
At last! Where have you been?
Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. Here are your hosts, Dan Z and Corey Clubb.
Hello, this is Dan Z, and welcome to show number 51 of Coffee with Kenobi, our 168th show overall. We are a Star Wars podcast that analyzes our favorite saga in a whole new way. With me is my good friend and co-host, Mr. Corey Clubb.
Hello, everybody. A special shout out to Connor Daniels, Joe Taylor, Dennis Keithley, Angela Souse, Neil Lowry, Mediocre Jedi, Mike Winder, Daniel, Aaron Harris, Mark Sutter, Jesse, and Michael Dett for their contributions to Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page. By supporting our Patreon page, you help our show in so many ways and can also win a coffee chat podcast of your very own. Check out our website or the show notes for more information. You can also support our show through our Amazon, Fandango, Cufflinks.com, Her Universe, and Zack Designs affiliate links on the site. Thank you for your generosity to our Coffee with Kenobi family.
In today's show, Bethany Blanton and Professor Roberta Trites join us as we discuss our topic for show number 51, Feminism in the Star Wars Universe. We will also discuss Episode 8 filming starting up, catching up with everyone on all the exciting things happening in the Coffee with Kenobi family, and introduce a new segment on Star Wars video games.
In Collector's News, we talk New York Toy Fair announcements and review Zack Design's Star Wars ceramic dinnerware, Cufflinks.com offerings, Supply Pod, and review Disney Infinity's The Force Awakens playset. We also share more of your feedback and introduce our topic for show number 52.
And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
Oh, wait. This is interesting.
You found something.
I'm about to let everyone in on the secret.
For our first news story, it's big, baby. We are back in business, and not only are we back in business, but it's good to be back on the show with you, by the way.
Yeah, it's been a nice little, you call it break, vacation, I guess, from Coffee with Kenobi for the last month. Hiatus, yes. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. So, yeah, it's been nice, but it's nice to be back on the air and talking and having good conversation.
And this is the great way to do it. This is the big news. Episode 8 began filming, and we got a little video to go with this. And tell me your thoughts on the video, as is our want when it comes to this sort of thing. You and I have not talked about this before the show. So what do you think of that video and the announcement?
Yeah, it was interesting because, you know, it seems to be the trend when trailers come out, there's always an announcement trailer for the trailer, you know. And now they're announcing, obviously, with a small teaser to the beginning of the filming of the next Star Wars film, Episode 8. And, you know, it drops right back in that final moment we see in The Force Awakens with Luke looking on and Rey reaching, arm extended with lightsaber in hand. And I instantly was drawn back to that moment. But the angle is different. It's like a different perspective. And I thought for a moment, okay, yeah, this is a new director. We're going to be seeing something a little different here rather than J.J. Abrams at the helm. And, you know, it just, I got goosebumps because here we go again. You know, we're on our journey, filming journey and just a news journey to kind of encapsulate the next, year and a half, a little over that. So,
well,
yeah,
and I send it to you. I actually got to.
Yeah, it's kind of a joke between us who gets the news first, and we kind of play off that once in a while.
Well, you have the ultimate one because you're the one who told me that only did.
That's right.
That did about Lucasfilm, but there's going to be episode 7, 8, 9. So unless I get cast in the next in the Han Solo
spin-off. Yes.
Yeah, probably you're always going to have that one, and I'm comfortable with that.
That's very good.
And I'm glad you brought up the angles because already people are wondering and speculating, and I'm one of them. Is this actual footage from Episode 8, where it starts off instantly where Episode 7 ended, or is this just an alternate angle from The Force Awakens?
Yeah.
And I got some theories on this. I also have some. I shouldn't say too much. I will say this: no one from Lucasfilm is saying either thing, yay or nay, about it at all at the time of this recording. Anyway, my opinion is that this is leftover Episode 7 footage. And now Luke's beard looks different. Maybe it's because we have a close up, and Rey. Like, I have a hard time believing that Mark Hamill and Daisy Ridley could film this scene, and they could release it like that day online. I mean, it's not like they can't do it. It's not like it's technologically impossible. But to me, this is a bit of a meta commentary, if you will, and to say something is meta would be like a conversation about a conversation. But these two, I feel like they have seen this scene so many times, and they filmed the scene years ago. So for them to reenact the scene where she tries to give Luke the lightsaber from The Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars, I feel like it would be hard to act that scene now without feeling very conscious that you were playing yourself. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I feel like because the way they are selling it here, I feel like this is still something from Episode 7.
Yeah,
and I probably sound like a drunk person, but
No, I agree with you because just from seeing films over the years and the way films are shot and the way films are produced, we see watch a lot of behind the scenes type stuff. This seemed like this was someone's camera, possibly behind the scenes, capturing some moments, capturing some things, not necessarily production cameras or of that nature. It was a tight close-up of Hamill's face, and he looked like he had longer hair. I don't know if that was me.
Too, and I thought that the beard was thicker too, but maybe it's just wishful thinking.
Well, and the way that the graphics, the picture was, it seemed a little clearer to me, more clear. It seemed like it was the grass was a little greener. If that makes, I don't know. It's just weird to me. It seemed like a little different. I don't know if that's
Are you making a metaphor?
Grass greener on the other side of that mountain, I guess, or the island.
Yeah, sure,
maybe, sure, why not? I just like you said, I don't think this is necessarily production value. It's just more of a capping off, a starting point, a release of champagne, a celebration of sense. So
our official stance is this is Episode 7 old footage, but it's also probably Episode 8 new footage that they published right away, and we have no clue.
Well, I also like to say, too, I can't believe that they wouldn't film a scene from Episode 8 there on that island.
Oh.
Obviously, I loved that if they dropped us right there, and that's the very first thing we see, because that's the starting point I want as a fan. I want to be able to start right back in that moment and just take off into Episode 8. I hope they do that.
I hope they don't.
Really?
Because think about 4, 5, and 6, and 1, 2, and 3. Not 5 or 6, not 2 or 3. None of them took place instantly after. They're always a couple years at the least in between films. So I have a hard time believing that is how Episode 8 will start.
I can agree with that.
And that'll happen in a novel or a comic, or maybe there'll be an entire animated series about it, for all I know. But Star Wars hasn't done that yet, and I don't necessarily believe they will now. But Rian Johnson is a new director and the writer of this. It's hard to say, but the news that's also exciting about this is we have new cast members. We've got everybody returning except for, sadly, moment of silence. Pour one out for Harrison Ford. But we also have Benicio del Toro and Laura Dern, as well as talented newcomer, according to the press release, Kelly Marie Tran. No idea who any of these people are as far as what their roles are going to be. I don't want to know. This is not news as far as me not wanting to know. But it is cool. I mean, they're great. They're great actors.
Yes. I will say this, Dan, I'll ask you. Coming off of Episode 7 and having read all the news and details we had done for the show, how is your anticipation for new news coming out for Episode 8? Are you a different mindset? Are you kind of a little apprehensive of reading things such as, new cast members and obviously who they will play? Because that's going to come out. It's going to come out whether it's official or non-official. People are going to start the conversation online. We dealt with it, obviously a lot in the last, 3 or 4 months, just from new things coming out, merchandising and whatnot, Force Friday, things like that. How apprehensive are you going to be going into this production?
I'm definitely going to be much more reticent or reluctant than I was for The Force Awakens. And there are a lot of reasons for that. But honestly, I'm still going to look at the official stuff and the casting announcements. And if Topps does something or Entertainment Weekly or whatever, I'm on board with that. I'll watch the trailers, as I said. But when it gets like 6 months out, I'm really going to go cold turkey in a way that I hadn't before. And I'm talking like in the bunker, eating the Spam, cutting off the Wi-Fi, the whole schmear, because I want to have a fresh experience. I don't even want to know, even something little, like the fact that Daniel Craig was a stormtrooper. That was a rumor that I happened to see, even though I didn't want to try to see it. Was it a big deal? No. Did it change my enjoyment of the film? Not even close. But I would like to find this stuff out after I've seen the movie, not before. I don't want to sit there and say, oh, that's Daniel Craig. I like being surprised by that. And again, this is just me. This is my proclivity, my tendency. But I'm definitely going to change things. I'm almost refreshed by Rogue One because there's a lot of stuff out there now about it, but I've managed to avoid most of the information about it. And I want to do that even more. And I think the more the show goes on, the harder it is. But I've learned certain things about how to disseminate fact from fiction, if that makes sense. I know it's a little bit vague, but
no, I know what you mean.
What about you?
No, I agree with that, and I'm on board with that because, like you said, it's hard. It's difficult to make that disconnection from what we do here at the show, and yet, be able to interact online and speak with our friends about things in the workplace or over the phone or whatever, what have you, online on the Twitter conversation and whatnot. So, I'm more apprehensive from knowing where to click, what not to click, knowing when to turn off and walk away and say, you know what, I'm good. What's the conversation? You guys go ahead. I'm without me, type thing. I also feel it's different because, like you mentioned, Rogue One. I don't know anything about that movie. I don't know if that's because I don't feel as close to it than I did with Episode 7. I don't know if it's because
I agree with you.
It's just it's a different feeling. I know, but shouldn't we be? Should we be invested as much as we are in Episode 8? Is that production value different in a sense because it's not necessarily the Skywalker timeline, or
it is to me.
It's weird. Yeah, it is Skywalker timeline, but it's like
no, not that. It is to me that it's different, but I find it refreshingly different because
yes.
I can get a break from the Skywalker thing and build up my anticipation, which I love.
Yeah.
And this is a new thing. So I feel like the expectations for The Force Awakens were astronomical. The expectations for Rogue One are the fact that it's a new Star Wars movie, but it doesn't involve, the Skywalker timeline. So it's a different thing. We're not used to it, so we have nothing to compare it to. Mm-hmm. There's no lightsabers in this movie. I believe they even said that the Force won't be as prominently used because these are ordinary people doing extraordinary things. They're heroes. Yeah. They're part of the hashtag burgeoning rebellion. So I think that is powerful, and I think it's very different from Episodes 7, 8, and 9. It doesn't have the same emotional resonance with me because I don't have, since 1977, history with this. I know that, of course, the first paragraph of A New Hope in the crawl talks about this scene, and I'm thrilled to death that we're going to actually find out more about it. But it's very different for me in a good way.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I'd like to say, too, it's different in that way for me as it is, I relate to the Marvel movies where I want to say, the Avengers is kind of that mainstream thread. I guess I could sort of. Last year's Ant-Man, I didn't see it till it came on DVD. Now, that was my own choice. I wanted to see it. I just didn't get around to seeing it. It wasn't just on my radar that big as, say, a Captain America movie. And I think that's maybe that's personal preference over just character base in that sense. And again, not that I dislike any of the characters in Rogue One, but it's a different feeling for me Same thing would be for maybe a Batman Superman movie. In that text, I guess it's hard to compare. I guess it's different because the timeline is a little bit different. But I think it comes down to personal preference. I'm excited. I'm very excited for it. I don't.
I'm more excited for Episode 8 than I am Rogue One.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, that's I guess what I'm getting to.
And that's not anti-Rogue One. It's more like, I want to see what happens to Rey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
I want to see what I am dying to see Luke Skywalker in action. So.
And it's interesting because you say that because once we see Rogue One, I want to think that I want to see these characters progress into another film of Rogue 2. So in that sense of like, oh, these are great characters. I want to see them move on and see where they go, and who knows? Maybe we'll see that too. But it's exciting to talk about. Exciting to get on board with obviously the beginning filming of Episode 8. And you're saddle up, buddy. We're ready to go again. For our next news story, kind of catch-up time for us. Dan and I have been kind of off the Star Wars train for a while, kind of catching up with maybe some of our personal lives and some of the stuff we've collected over the next month and a half or so, conversations we've had of new things coming out with Coffee with Kenobi. So, Dan, we'll start out with me asking you, it's January is a cold month for here in Illinois, Central Illinois. We've been dealing with a little bit of snow, a little bit of ice, things like that. But what has kept you the warmest? The Tauntauns? Not the Tauntauns.
The Tauntauns, sure. Are you referring to my Anovos armor?
I am.
Yeah, well, anyone's been listening to the show for a while, and I've been talking a lot on Twitter. Made a lot of great friends on Facebook through this, but I finally got my Anovos Stormtrooper armor, and it was great. And I've been joking around with my wife that I ordered it. I waited 9 months to receive it, so it's like getting my baby. And of course, she looks at me like, "You crazy boy," and I think funny. I might be, but it's wonderful. When I first got the armor, you have to sign for it because it's such an expensive item, and you want to make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands.
That's
like,
right.
Like the plans for the Death Star did, according to the Empire.
Yes.
Speaking of Rogue One, so and you haven't even seen it yet, but it's all in pieces. You have to cut the pieces and format them to your body type. The only thing that's fully complete, the one, because I bought the one that you have to assemble, the helmet already is together, and my son and I have had a lot of fun with that. I posted some pictures online, and it's cool. It's a little different than you might expect because I mean, if you saw this picture of the helmet and you've seen it, like, how do you envision it being weight wise?
Yeah, so I don't see it as like a plastic toy style helmet, that you'd see in Target aisles and whatnot. I see it as more of a hard plastic, the eyes being quality. I see it as more of a form-fitting type helmet, and the weight would be more of like a fireman's helmet, like a fireman's helmet type thing. But I don't know, that seems like uncomfortable to me. I don't know, I mean, the 501st are probably used to it by now, but to me, I don't know. So
it's actually quite astute. It's a lighter, heavy plastic. I think I expected more like a football helmet consistency.
Oh,
but
okay.
It's not that, and honestly, it makes sense that it wouldn't be because you couldn't run around for that very long without,
Can't see a thing of that.
Cosplaying. Exactly. The eyes. It's sort of like a visor that slides up and down, and I have to Velcro to keep it in place, which I will do. And it's got some adjustments on the inside where you can customize it to fit it onto your head a little tighter.
Sure.
But it's cool. I mean, I've only worn it for like 2 or 3 minutes at a time while I'm chasing my son around or he's chasing me or whatever.
Yeah.
And I haven't put together the armor itself yet because I'm going to get with members of the 501st and Midwest Garrison. They've graciously offered,
which is awesome.
Tell me, it's amazing, and they're just great people, and it's going to be fun to do that anyway. So I'm thrilled. It comes in 2 different shipments. The second shipment is the neck seal and the shirt and pants that go with it, and the Stormtrooper gloves. I haven't received that yet. I don't think anyone has at the time of this recording. So that'll be fun to get. But just having the helmet itself, and I can't help but I just look at it sometimes. I'm just like, I've got Stormtrooper armor, and like our laundry room is downstairs where the Coffee with Kenobi office is going to be, and my wife was like, "Will you just go down there looking at that armor?" I said, "Yeah." And she laughs. And laundry, folding my
unmentionables.
My unmentionables with my Stormtrooper armor. Yeah, so It's pretty great.
We need a picture of that.
Yeah, I don't think so. So, I mean, but besides that, I mean, what's been
Sure.
going on with you? Just what's kept you busy? Not necessarily Star Wars related, but just catch everybody up on what's going on in our lives.
Sure, absolutely. As much as you know, I'm going back to school. Still going back to school. Finished my degree in digital marketing. Still wrapping up that this year. It finishes December, hopefully in time for Rogue One. Be able to take some time off. I'd like to do that. So it's definitely a journey. Definitely taking a lot of my free time up. But also, I got a new position. I accepted a position with Samaritan Ministries in our local area here, doing product design. So I'm creating design apps for the member interface and the external interface. Basically, apps that the folks would be using to get into their systems and get into their membership and be able to work some of the components there, and obviously using all kinds of cutting edge technology and whatnot. So it's quite the interesting aspect of a position I've never had before. So there's a learning curve, but also I think it's nicely integrated myself into a wonderful company, some wonderful folks, very smart, very capable folks that are taught me a lot, and I'm learning constantly and using all my brain capacity to its fullest extent. And it's been good. It's really enjoying. It's kind of an unexpected thing, as I didn't necessarily expect to get a full-time job most recently. So it's been wonderful. It's definitely put my life into a direction that has been needed for the longest time. Just having a position in a company that I can feel adequate and feel like I'm part of something that's bigger than myself. So it's been great that way. And again, like I said, I'm learning a lot and definitely stretching my skill set, and I'm really enjoying it. So it's been really great.
I'm happy for you. You certainly put in the work, and you deserve it, man. So it's
Thank
really
you.
cool. Yeah, for me, it's more like business as usual. Things are going
Sure.
well. I'm blogging for stars.com is a lot of fun, a lot of great things happening. And recently, we had John Morton, better known as Dak. He Skyped with my students. We talked about The Force Awakens. And I actually had a field trip, Corey, where I took my students to see The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do it, right?
Somebody's got to do it. Yeah,
And
that's right.
So we had them create critical thinking questions. There's going to be a blog about it on stars.com. And
that's
we had a
awesome.
conversation with John, and wow. I mean, as
He's always
Jeff McGee
just
has
awesome.
said, yeah, he's the kind of guy that you want to adopt you.
Jeff, yeah.
That's what Jeff came up with that, and it's a great line, and it's totally true. He's just so much fun and a great guy, and we had a ball. And speaking of that, Corey, Lattes with Leia, a
Yes.
brand new addition to the Coffee with Kenobi family. Amy Radcliffe and Dr. Andrea Letamendi, so excited and honored
Couldn't be more happy. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, share the podcasting ways with them, and their first show. I had the good fortune of editing that show, and it's great. It was fun to listen to them, and they're just such pros, and they have great insights into Star Wars anyway. I mean, you could listen to them talk about anything, and it would just be captivating. So hopefully everyone's gotten a chance to download it, because it's a great show.
Yeah, well, like you mentioned, I mean, you had edited and gave me kind of an early quote-unquote look at it. And I thought, I'm just going to listen to the first, 10 minutes or so and just kind of see what's about, and listen to it later, set it aside, And I ended up listening to the whole thing because it was so just a great conversation, great hosts, great conversation about topics that are relevant and on point. And like I said to you, I texted you as I was listening, I thought, I think they make me feel smarter. So I think it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of interesting aspect, different point of view. And it's just fun. It's just great, a lot of fun. I love being able to stretch our arms and branch out like we do. I think it's so great, so much fun.
We've got Lattes with Leia, with Amy and Andrea. We've got Rose Reactions, and Aaron Harris is doing a phenomenal job at talking about season 2 of Rebels, which has been so great to watch anyway. And he's been having his co-host. He doesn't have a set co-host because he has our Coffee with Kenobi bloggers on, and some other guests coming up too that we know about, and it's wonderful. I mean, I got to be honest on this; it's hard for me to hand over the reins because I do miss it, but I don't worry about the show because Aaron he's a great guy and a great host. So it's been fun seeing the world through his eyes, and I hope that you be a guest someday on Rebels Reaction. In the future.
Yeah, I think that you could probably make that happen. That'd be fun.
I think so. I know some people. And Legends Library with Randy and Luke is always good. They just had their Order 66 show, which was tremendous. And they're great guys. And honestly, a lot of some of the sound that we have for the show, and you and Randy did such a great job with the intro on Lattes with Leia.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah.
And a lot of the success of the audio quality is due to you and Randy's hard work, and we wouldn't be where we are without that. So I appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you.
And it's true. And in Comics with Kenobi, I think, and I'm biased, but I think it's the premier Star Wars comic book podcast out there, or conversation about Star Wars comics. I mean, Matt and Jeff are tremendous. They have great chemistry, as do all of our hosts, and they know their stuff. It's fun to sit back and listen to them talk about the Star Wars comics.
Exactly. And, as much as we enjoy putting these shows out, we continually try to stretch ourselves, like we said, just to do the best we can. I know this is our first monthly show for Coffee with Kenobi, the main show here, and we continue doing just monthly shows as we kind of move forward here. We mentioned we got a lot going on in our lives, things get busy, but you never know what pops up, a guest show or a coffee chat show, Dan. We got a lot of those coming up. A lot of folks wanting to put forth some of their funds and support the show on our Patreon page. If you feel so inclined to go out there and grab the link off our website, check that out, and whatever you feel like you want to do, you can go ahead. It does put you in the running for some prizes, and we've got some folks here to announce.
Yeah, well, and we released this on Twitter, but Mike Audette won our next coffee chat, and of course, Mike is a that's right. Mike is a blogger for us, and he does a lot of stuff for Retro Zap, and he's everywhere, man. He's a busy guy. But he contributes, and we drew his name fair and square, and we're excited to have him. We're going to be recording that probably late March, early April. And if you haven't seen about our coffee chats, essentially what's going on with them is you get online and you sign up to our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page, and it's pretty cool because depending on how much you care to donate, that impacts how many times your name is entered into the drawing. And the exact details, again, are on our show notes, or on all of our show notes. But basically, if you put in $5, you get one entry. Mm-hmm. If you put in $10, you get 2 entries. If you put in $35, you get 10 entries. $50 gets you 25 entries. And $100 gets you 50 entries. And every month you contribute, you get those extra entries. So in other words, if you give $5 2 months in a row, then you're going to get 2 entries. So it's really, really cool. If you put in $10 2 months in a row, then you're going to get 4 entries. So it adds up. And we do these 3 times a year. So you have a really strong chance, the more you choose to spend your hard-earned money with us, to be able to host a show. And Mike is going to do it as Dennis Keithley did earlier, where he picks a topic and he interviews us, and the 3 of us have a conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's not all. Connor Daniels is another Patreon page winner, and he donated. He was very generous. He donated $50, and with that donation, he gets to pick a topic for a future show, and he gets to co-host that segment with us.
That's awesome. That's so much fun.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to interact. It's fun just doing this anyway, because when you get to talk to people and plan it, and you hear their excitement and enthusiasm for the show, and more importantly for Star Wars and the art of conversation and rhetoric, it means a lot. It means a lot to me, and the money that through Patreon or anything that happens in our show goes into the show. It goes into the equipment. It goes into the amount of money it costs to produce the show. It goes into travel, and things add up more than you might expect. The show is always going to be free, but this is just sort of a way to help us give back to the show and give back to our families, and we appreciate everything that everybody does. And as always, we're having a lot of fun doing it.
Exactly. And Dan, just to cap off this segment here, can we put all the names into the bucket helmet, the Stormtrooper bucket helmet, and be able to pull out of that? Can we call it Dan's bucket maybe? Is that something we can do?
Interesting. Is that patent pending on that?
It's patent pending. We're still working at the kinks. Sure.
It's good. Yeah. Well, it's good food for thought for sure. Yes. Well, it's great to be back on Coffee with Kenobi, and let's keep on rolling and see what else we've got brewing here. For our third news story, we have a news segment. As you may have noticed, the Bearded Trio's Espresso Shot is on hiatus, and there's no negative reason for that. Rob is still a wonderful contributor to Coffee with Kenobi, but more importantly, he is the heart and soul of the Bearded Trio, which is the premier website for news on George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and John Williams.
Check it out.
In fact, he just contributed another Winding Down with Williams that we released on Sunday. And it was beautiful with some piano renditions of Ray's theme and stuff like that. So he's very much, we're still all very much a member of the Star Wars fandom family. And we love Rob. He's so important to what we do. But he's focusing more on the Bearded Trio website, and rightfully so, more power to him. So graciously, as the Force would have it, Nick DeCalandria has reached out to us and he said, hey, do you guys talk about Star Wars video games at all? Do you have any plans to do so? Because I'd like to contribute. And I said, hey, send me an audition tape. A week and a half later, he sent me something. I loved it. Corey loved it. It was great. So we've got Nick's first segment on Star Wars video games. Take a listen.
Well, hello there. This is Nick DeCalandria, your new contributor to Coffee with Kenobi and your guide to being a casual/dedicated gamer in the world of Star Wars. So let me tell you a little bit about how this got started. Last, I guess, December, right before Force Awakens came out, I was getting really hyped up about the new Star Wars game Battlefront. And to me, it occurred that there's a lot of stuff to cover in the Star Wars universe that we kind of currently were talking about through Coffee with Kenobi. So after Force Awakens came out, I sent a lovely little tweet to Dan and the team, and I said, hey, you guys should do a segment on video games. And they graciously offered for me to interview and send in a recording and actually start talking to you all as fellow fans about the Star Wars universe inside video games. As we remember, games have a rich history within the Star Wars universe, whether from Sabak to Dejarik, to really anything that we've seen in the Clone Wars. There's always been an aspect of playful gaming and competition in the games of chance in the Star Wars universe. So what better way to talk about the new canon that we have and maybe some old legends than touching base with some old favorites and some new classics in the Star Wars universe for the video games. So a little bit about me before I jump into my first review/advice piece about the Star Wars games that are out currently. I was brought up in the classic 80s of video games, and I'm talking about your Metroids, your Zeldas, your Atari, everything that really kind of got you hooked up as a kid, that probably a lot of you experienced as well. But most importantly, I am definitely of the age of the GoldenEye from the Nintendo 64. That was probably the best first-person shooter I can remember playing all the way to dawn with my high school buddies way back in the day in the 90s, right? So with that, I really feel like I'm not, though, a professional gamer. I do this when I have a chance. I have a family in my mid-30s. We're expecting twins in April, so the time to game is not as much as it was back in high school or college. So I want to offer my pieces of advice and reviews for some games based upon what they offer to your experience as a Star Wars fan. What actually it allows you to see perspective-wise, both canon and maybe the old stuff, the stuff that is Legends now, that add to the storyline that is Star Wars. Because before we had this new trilogy coming out, video games were kind of one of the few ways that we were expanding the story, besides the novelizations and the books after Return of the Jedi. And I feel like it's kind of missed. If you don't really know that, you're missing out on a lot of cool little things that are happening in the universe that you currently wouldn't have known about if you didn't play these video games. So I want to start off with the biggest game on the market right now, which is Star Wars Battlefront. And if you haven't heard about this game, if you haven't seen anything in the stores about it, you probably have been living in Jakku with Rey, hidden for the past 30 years. It is probably the most hyped Star Wars game that I can remember. And that's because Battlefront was a popular third-person shooter from the original Xbox and PlayStation 2 almost a decade ago. But I'm not going to get into the history of Battlefront, but what I want to do is kind of dive into why this game is either A, worth your time, or B, not. And that's the kind of approach I want to take every month, just for a few minutes here on Coffee with Kenobi, to let you know this is something that you should look into, maybe invest some money, and try to tell you also where not to invest your money. Because I, like yourself, am a very savvy consumer, and time is precious, as is the money that I will probably end up needing to spend on bottles and diapers and things like that in a few months. So let's dive right in. So the new Star Wars Battlefront is for all the new systems that are out currently, except for the Wii U. It is for the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, and really high-quality PCs, not the one that work gives you, unless you really have a nice workplace environment. So it is broken down into two kind of sections. It's online multiplayer and 1 to 2 player missions. And one of the biggest attractions for this game going into it is that there's no single player campaign like the old Battlefront. So you don't actually get to follow a storyline like you did in the previous ones, especially of Battlefront 2, following the storyline of a clone trooper going from the Clone Wars to becoming a stormtrooper into the Empire in Order 66. Even though that's not canon anymore, that was a really cool aspect to understand more of these soldiers before even the TV show Rebels came out, and understanding where these guys were coming from as clone troopers, that they were all different, actually. So anyway, even though there is no campaign, the best part of this game is the multiplayer, hands down, obviously. The missions you can, they're okay, but you can play up to 40 people in multiplayer in vast, gorgeous, stunning maps across the galaxy. And, I do this maybe 3 to 4, 5, 6 hours a week, typically in the evenings, or if a kid is napping when I can. But it is so much fun, and it is really definitely an above average Star Wars game. I wouldn't say excellent because it's missing some pieces still, and I'll get into that. But, it is definitely worth the money, especially if you can get it on sale now that it's been a few months after the holidays. I think I saw it at Target the other day for $40. I paid maybe $60 for it, but it's definitely still worth it. The biggest parts of this game that make it worth your while as a Star Wars fan are the maps, the gorgeous, stunning graphics, and the sound. It is like living in the Star Wars universe. While there is no campaign to follow and kind of add to that canon, you really get a picture of what it's like to be on these planets outside of watching it on television on Clone Wars or Rebels, or in the movies. Running around as a rebel soldier, dodging AT-STs, and then turning around and seeing it staring you in the face only to have it explode in front of you because your buddies took it out for you is probably one of the best ways I can describe how it feels like to be in this game. It is like living the Star Wars universe on Endor, on Hoth, and different places that we haven't seen yet, like Sullust. These kind of maps that we've heard about in books, we've heard about in the movies, we know where the TIE fighters have been built, but we've never got a chance to see these planets. And this is canon now. This is actually, part of the Star Wars universe. And that's definitely part of the hype that Force Awakens brought around, and at the same time, this game being released to coincide with it. The biggest pieces of canon that we haven't seen that are now part of the new series is battling on Jakku, battling in what's called the Graveyard of Giants. And so we know exactly what happened there because of this game. We actually are living the battle. We understand that after Endor, you had the Rebel fleet assaulting the military complex on Jakku, and it was an all-out battle. It was everything we saw at the Battle of Endor multiplied by you actually getting to play in it now. And you have Star Destroyers in the air, you have Mon Calamar Star Cruisers, you have TIE Fighters, X-Wings flying around, destroying each other in the distance, and you're on the ground battling in the carcasses of downed AT-AT Walkers and X-Wings and everything that looked like would have happened if you were Rey 30 years later living on that planet. And so that really, I can't stress to you enough how much fun that game is from that standpoint. The gameplay is fun. It's great to actually drive around in the AT-AT and target other players. It's a blast to actually become Darth Vader or the Emperor Palpatine. Boba Fett are your villains. Han, Luke, and Leia are your heroes. And running around and fighting as them and using some of their unique gifts like the Force or like Force Lightning and jetpacks and things like that. It's definitely, though, really quickly, the pitfalls is that there's no voice communication between your players. So as a game, you're not really getting to experience this with everybody else and kind of getting like the cool factor of actually commanding your troopers to go after the Empire. There's definitely only a few good kind of modes. I would say Supremacy, Walker Assault, where you're actually trying to take down the AT-ATs or defend them, are definitely my two favorite. Turning Point, which is only currently available from Jakku, which makes sense as you're trying to take positions to assault the Empire, and the Empire is trying to keep you away and being pushed back. So that's definitely an awesome turning point. But There's definitely things that hopefully they're going to improve that they just said a few days ago they are, in terms of the weapons being off in damage and range, the lack of balance between certain maps for certain kind of sides, and the season pass that you get for more downloadable content being $60. A little pricey for a full game to cost $120, and I think EA has seen that from the comments online. But honestly, the best part of this is experiencing that canon, the Battle of Jakku. You are living it, you're fighting it, and you're getting to live this whole new aspect of the Star Wars universe that we were just shown a few pieces of in The Force Awakens. So just take that as my greatest takeaway, is that if you want to live in the Star Wars universe, you want to be a part of the canon, you want to really see what's going on from the original trilogy into some of the new trilogy, this game is definitely for you. If you only have a few hours to play every week, if you're even if you're a casual gamer, you like the aspects that the old Battlefronts have given to you, but you've been kind of on the fence, take the plunge. Definitely take the plunge. I played on the Xbox One. It's not the best graphics. PS4 has better graphics, but still, all my friends that I've shown it to that have come over and played are just wowed. They're just like, this is amazing. And then we try to set up play dates like we would our kids. So that's really it. I wanted to thank you guys so much for listening in. Next month we'll cover some of the mobile games that are currently out there. If you want to find me somewhere, I am on Twitter at Nick Dico, Nick Dico, and I'm on Xbox One on Shake and Bake Skywalker, which is abbreviated to SNB Skywalker. And I'd love to have some help hunting down some stormtroopers. Have a great one, everybody, and may the Force be with you.
Han Solo, Rebel Soldier, Lando Calrissian, and Bespin Guard, each sold separately. From Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back Collection, new from Kenner.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say,
Your lightsabers will make a fine addition to my collection.
Our first bit of collector news, we're right out of the gate here with some new toys for the new year. New York Toy Fair this past weekend had been debuting some new Black Series figures featuring some wonderful characters we were dying to see. I think they had the voting last year was for a fan choice character, and the winner of that winners of that, was Princess Leia, Sabine Wren, and a fan choice of Darth Revan. I want to say it was pretty close.
Darth Revan was the winner.
Yeah, it was really.
And they put Sabine in there because she's awesome.
Yeah, I think that was really well done. I think it was pretty cool. And they got quite a few different characters here. Looks like they got Darth Maul in the 3-inch as far as 3¼ inch, yes, and Kanan in his Stormtrooper gear.
Love.
That's very cool. We've got Sabine, like I said. Seventh Sister, we have the lead hero droid, which is BB-8, which is an interesting title.
I don't know what that must be.
The size that is.
Yeah,
that might be 6-inch. I don't know. And then they've got an environment group, which is kind of interesting. That's new to the Black Series that I know of. Maybe no more than me, Dan. But that comes with Finn, BB-8, Rey, and Maz. Mm. So that's quite a group there. It's the forest scenes from Force Awakens. And, sounds like fans are being heard with more Rey merchandise, obviously with more Sabine merchandise out there. Fans are, again, like most of these, at least half, if not more, the characters are all female. Again, like we said, we got, oh gosh, they are. Just seven sisters on here. So,
yeah,
there's a lot of cool things coming out. Dan, which one perks your interest the most?
Ooh, well, I mean, the Red Apprentice figure, I guess there's not really a mystery now that Darth Maul was in that trailer for Rebel Season 2, which that came out when we were on our hiatus anyway, so we didn't get a chance to talk about it. But I think that's a beautiful figure. It'll be a hot commodity. The robe is neat. If you look at the dual lightsaber, which is back in full force, it's got some interesting, like, sort of a blade or something that comes out. It almost looks like a half propeller.
Yeah. Huh.
He's shirtless and he's got his tattoos everywhere. And then I'm a sucker for, of course, the Stormtrooper. That's not a secret at this point.
Yes.
And when I saw Kanan wearing that armor, and when we were in Celebration Anaheim, when they showed the trailer for Season 2, I thought, oh my gosh. The first thing I thought is, oh cool, he's wearing Stormtrooper armor. It was, oh cool, there's going to be a figure of this.
Yeah.
So I'm on it, man. And the Seven Sister looks great. The 3 3/4-inch Sabine doesn't look as good as I think the Black Series 6-inch one.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some gorgeous stuff here. The number one thing that excites me from Toy Fair in New York is the fact that there's going to be a brand new Star Wars Trivial Pursuit game.
Oh, okay. I did not see that yet. Film me in.
It looks good. You got to see the box cover because it's got familiar characters in the four corners, but right smack dab in the middle, bigger than any character, is Rey.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It looks great.
So,
I can't wait to get that.
I was going to say, we got to have a Dan's birthday party.
That's right.
And be able to play that, and I can beat you again if that needs to be done. So,
if it's one thing that's important, it's to learn that you should have dreams.
Very good, very good. So I also want to mention too that the Black Series 6-inch comes. I'll name off here: Princess Leia, Sabine, like we said, Darth Revan. There's a 6-inch Snowtrooper, folks out there looking for.
Looks cool.
It looks really cool. Yeah, he looks really kind of like dirtied up and kind of looks similar to the Battlefront game. So it reminds me of. And then also, folks looking to add onto their lightsaber collection, they've got some connections pieces. It looks like they've got some gold accents on them. I know my son's got the one that connects together, that you can kind of connect. They connect and snap in, and you can move them around and whatnot. And there's some spinning different portions to lock in and make your own custom lightsaber, which is pretty cool. I think for folks looking to upgrade or make a change. So very cool stuff coming out from Hasbro here and Toy Fair. So lots of fun.
Well, one thing I want to say too, that I think that Seven Sister 3 3/4-inch looks amazing. It seems like so often, and sometimes with female characters, they don't quite get the sculpts right on the faces, and they don't look as good as I think they should or could. But with this, I think that looks great. It almost looks a little bit like Sarah Michelle Gellar. I think you can tell maybe there's some inspiration, which I know animators do anyway. So I thought that looked great. I love all the Rebels figures as it is. So knowing that we're getting more of them is fantastic. So our next collector's item, this is a bit long overdue as well, but I want to talk a little bit about the Disney Infinity The Force Awakens playset. So I was sent this. I got this pretty much the day that the film came out, and it's much like Disney Infinity's Star Wars set so far. This thing is gorgeous. It's fun. It's captivating. The set itself comes with Finn and Rey, and the little collector piece that you put in the middle of the game board, if you will, is the First Order Stormtrooper helmet. Is what it looks like.
Cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And you put it on there, and you transport it. And the first scene is Finn and Poe escaping from the Star Destroyer Finalizer, just getting out of there. And it's pretty easy to get through, actually. And then right away you're on Jakku, and you run around as whoever you choose. They also sent me the things where you can modify the character's costume. So I was Finn, but I had Stormtrooper armor on, and then I played a little bit with Rey too. And they're both fun. They're engaging, and John Boyega's voice is actually used, which I think is amazing that these actors do this kind of thing. And you go around and you have to earn credits to try to repair your ship and get out of there, which I was successful in doing, Corey.
Very good. Yeah, I was worried you'd be stuck.
It actually took, and it took a little bit longer than I expected. And my Peyton was helping me with it too, our oldest. And it's cool because there's these little mini games that you have as well, where you played in and it's almost like Defender versus asteroids, but you're X-Wings, and you go around and you're shooting TIE fighters, and you can spin around. It's almost like it got some Galaga elements to it as well, almost in three-dimensional action, and it's great. And I only played it for a couple of hours so far, but we also have Kylo Ren and Poe, and again, the sculpts on these things. These things are works of art. These are collectibles in and of themselves, regardless of their gameplay, which is phenomenal as well. It's just tremendous fun. The action is exciting. It's easy. The gameplay is easy. You can build up your character strengths, and depending on when you take out enemies, you'll get different colored sparks of light in essence, and that builds up your health or your skill points. You can buy more stuff, and you can go on the main missions, or you can go on a lot of side mini missions. It's almost like Star Wars: The Grand Theft Auto Edition G-rated. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. That's cool. And I know we've talked about this a little bit. I did get a PS4 for Christmas. Santa was very nice. And so I can come over and borrow that from you, and we can,
yes.
Or you can come over to my house, or we can come over to your house. We can run around the galaxy together. That'll be fun. We should do that. We do a little video or something.
We can do Twitch. We can do the Twitch.
There you go.
Video like our buddy Freddie Prinze Jr. has been doing.
Very nice. Good idea. For next bit of collector's news, we've got some affiliates to talk about here. Dan and I were gracious enough to receive some stuff to review for SupplyPod and Cufflinks.com and Zach Designs. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and so you guys get excited and check it out for yourselves here. So we'll start with SupplyPod. We got a nice little box that was kind of coolly designed. It looked like it was a drop from the air. Had a lot of goodies in there. We have some Star Wars socks, some BB-8 socks, some lightsaber crystals, but kind of like a science experiment style crystallized thing. We got a book and some wireless R2D2 power tube. Is kind of you plug in to charge your phone or mobile device or iPad or something like that on the run there. So if you're looking to escape the Empire, need a little juice up,
there you go.
Check that out. That was pretty cool to get in the mail.
Well, the book is from Dr. Travis Langley, who we had a book chat with previously about the psychology of Star Wars, and a beautiful book, autographed. An excellent read. Really, a lot of profound concepts and ideas there, and which is no surprise if you heard his book chat. I was pretty excited about the socks. Surprisingly, I don't know. I mean, the BB-8 socks are pretty cool. My son thought they were phenomenal, and they've got BB-8 on them. And then it also came with some black and gray Star Wars socks. They're black dress socks with the Star Wars logo sprinkled throughout in gray. And it's really classy. Well, like they're nice dress socks, and I enjoyed them. I like wearing them to school, and it's kind of fun to dress up and have a little bit of Star Wars on. And people may not necessarily know, but you know.
That's right.
And that's pretty fun.
Well,
my favorite thing is the R2D2 power tube, though.
Yeah, so it's interesting because
it works fast.
Some of the stuff that we've gotten or that I've purchased on my own, and plus, been gracious enough to get, have been a lot of Force Awakens stuff. So I'll get something, and my wife will kind of see what's this box type thing. She's here during the day, so she can kind of grab that stuff and see what it is, and she's always curious. So I pulled out the supply pod and the BB-8 socks, and she's like, "Oh, look, it's BB-8." I was like, "Oh, you're learning the characters, very good." Right. She understands some of the characters. I recently got a bobblehead of a Funko Pop of Kylo Ren, and she knew who that was. So she slowly getting closer and closer to becoming a bigger fan. So
you're a good husband and a good man.
I just try.
A gentleman and a scholar.
Thank you.
So the downside of the Star Wars Supply Pod, and we want to thank Supply Pod for being so awesome and sending us that. We really appreciate it. The downside is that the Star Wars one is not available anymore.
Right.
But they have a monthly subscription, and they had an X-Files one, and they're always putting out new stuff that's current with...
I think it was Deadpool was the latest one. Was it Deadpool?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
And so if you're a fan of geek culture and you like getting a lot of amazing swag, is well worth every penny, and certainly something you need to subscribe to and check out. And I don't have any inside information as of right now, but I don't see why Star Wars wouldn't come back somewhere in the future, wouldn't you think?
Oh, I think so, exactly. It seems like they're going to try to release with the sequential type films or merchandising that's coming out, obviously, within this year. There's a lot coming out this year. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, definitely get on board and let us know what you think.
The next thing we want to talk about is from Cufflinks. Cufflinks.com is another one of our affiliates, and I mentioned this in the review, and I want to be clear on this, and I'm sure that it's not really a surprise either, but anything that we are sent or anything that we are asked to review, and again, we're very fortunate and blessed we get to do so, and we don't take that for granted at all. But you can also take 100% without a shadow of a doubt, if you're listening to us talk about a product or writing about a product, we're telling you what we think, and we're telling you honestly. It's not like we get paid to do this kind of thing. We do it because we're very excited to do so, and we like to talk about it. And we're going to be honest. And honestly, Cufflinks.com has amazing items. They send us some options, and I picked the red Darth Vader tie, and it's all in the review. There'll be a link in the show notes. And you got some pretty cool Rebels socks, and I can't speak about the socks because I didn't get them. But the tie is very high quality. It's so nice, in fact, that when I was getting dressed for Christmas Eve Mass, my wife said, "Why don't you wear your Christmas tie?" And I said, "Oh, Christmas tie? What are you talking about?" I actually do, full disclosure, have a Christmas tie of Spider-Man climbing down the side of a house with a sack of toys and a Santa hat. But I knew she wasn't talking about that. She said, "No, your Darth Vader tie that you just got in the mail." I'm like, "Oh, cool." So I wore that thing to church for Christmas Eve Mass, and it was great. I got compliments on it. I wore it to some family stuff, and it's a very high quality item. I was thrilled with it. In fact, I'd love to get all the ties from Cufflinks if I could somehow make that happen, because they've got some great items. But it's not only spoiler. It's not only ties that they have, is it?
No, right? Yeah, they've got socks. They've got cufflinks. If you guys are looking to get maybe a groomsman gift, your Star Wars fans to the groomsman gift, check out cufflinks.com and some of their stuff that they have there, Star Wars infused or geek infused type stuff, whatever have you. And again, we had some options to pick through, and I picked socks. It was cold. I wanted socks, and I thought it would be a nice little connection to, like you said, Dan. It's one of those things you can wear without, jumping off.
Fly the geek fly.
Yes, you can kind of fly under the radar.
Yeah.
So it's nice to wear them and keep warm. Obviously, they're very trendy socks. They're warm enough to wear, shovel the snow if you want to with boots on, or if you're walking on the office building and you want to have something that's keeps your toesies warm and whereas you power through your day. So it's cool to have that kind of stuff. You wore them to
The Force Awakens, didn't you?
Yes, they came in just in time to Force Awakens, and I've wore them many times since along the lines there, just off and on, as they match my outfit. I like to kind of connect a little bit all the way down to the toes. So again, if you guys, I know a lot of people out there are into the cool, fun, crazy socks, and I'm not a big person on that. I'll say that. I mean, I'm a white socks guy, or a black socks, some brown socks.
Really?
I won't jump out and grab new socks, but I think this was a nice little connection, and I'm not one to go out and buy a bunch of Star Wars themed stuff. I'm not a huge collector, so this was right up my alley and perfect for me and my fandom. So Dan, as we all go along with life, we all have to eat. And at times, you want to bring out the good china and bring out the big stuff for your friends. And you're having a party. You want to have a good hosting experience. You want to be able to show off some things, and it's fun to be able to grab things up here and there. I know our family has gotten a few things like Star Wars cups here and there randomly, that kind of go with the themes and some of the backgrounds and stuff that they've had come out. But Zach Designs come out with this Star Wars dinnerware that's very classy. It's kind of like this white plate with black designs. These designs are based off the original trilogy, you have Yoda. We've got some of the Darth Vader and some of the other characters that are big in that era, if you will. Dan, you especially like these. Why?
I love them. I love them.
Does it make your food taste better?
I think one of the reasons I love them so much is, of course, it's got Star Wars on it. You could put Star Wars on a Kleenex, and I would be excited.
You've got Star Wars napkins. I know that.
I do, from 1980. They're still sealed.
Packaged, yes.
So don't try to open them. But these are like, not only does it have Star Wars on them, but they're high quality china. In fact, when I open them, my wife is like, "That's actually really nice." And this is the coup de grace for me. On Sunday mornings, we have a tradition at the Zero household where I make pancakes. Dad makes pancakes, put some chocolate chips in them, the whole deal. And I always serve them on the Star Wars dinnerware, and it's great because my little boy was like, "I got the Darth Vader plate. I got the Stormtrooper plate." And they're good quality, so when I wash them, I don't have to worry. They're dishwasher safe, and they're tremendous to look at. I only have the dinner plates, but they have cereal bowls, they have other bowls, they have smaller plates. They've got a ton of stuff. I was looking around on the website the other day, and besides this, they have glasses and water bottles and a lot of cool stuff. And I guess at New York Toy Fair, they had some more designs that are coming out as well. So highest possible recommendation for these if you're interested in Star Wars and fine china. And honestly, who knew? But they're great. Right. They really are.
Well, it's unfortunate that you don't invite me to those breakfasts, and I do get hungry from time to time. So maybe next time you give a little text, a little phone call, maybe.
Is that all it takes?
That's all it takes.
And you can saunter over or take the Tauntaun and
that's true.
Cruise on over. That would be great. I would love to have you for Zara Pancake Day.
This is Bethany Blanton of the Star Wars Report. You are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z and Corey Clubb. This is the podcast you're looking for.
Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
I must be allowed to speak.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
Our topic for show number 51 is feminism in the Star Wars universe. How does The Force Awakens advance the Star Wars saga in a positive way and help promote the saga for all fans? And what does Rey truly mean for popular culture? Joining us on this topic are two very special guests. In alphabetical order, we have the Star Wars Report's Bethany Blanton. Bethany is a powerful voice in fandom. The Star Wars Report is a go-to source for in-depth news coverage of Star Wars, with honest commentary and discussion, while entertaining listeners all across the spectrum. She is also one of the nicest people we've ever met since starting Coffee with Kenobi. Welcome, Bethany.
Oh, well, thank you, guys. I'm so excited about being on the show. As we mentioned in the pre-show, it's been long overdue, so thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, we had the good fortune to meet you at Celebration Anaheim, and of course, you and I were on that round table together with Full of Sith, the trailer. So we had fun. We're looking forward to having you on. And speaking of looking forward to, our next guest, I'm pretty biased because she was actually my college professor for 4 different classes. Joining us is Distinguished Professor of English, Roberta Trites. Roberta has written many books on this topic, including Waking Sleeping Beauty, Feminist Voices in Children's Novels, and Disturbing the Universe, Power and Repression in Adolescent Literature. She's a leading expert in the field and will enrich your understanding of feminism in a whole new way. Welcome, Roberta.
Thanks so much, Dan. It's always a delight to talk to you.
Absolutely. And I had to put the caveat in there because when I had classes with Professor Trites, we had a lot of fun. And she, honestly, I would say between Roberta and my mother, I know more about feminism because of these two ladies, I would say for sure.
Thank you, Dan.
It's true. And we won't even get into all the Disney stuff, but that'll be for another time. So so here we go. This is clearly a very important topic. It's all over Twitter. It's all over fandom. And we'll just kind of throw it out to both of you. Roberta, we'll start with you. What does the term strong female character entail? And why is it so important to feature these aspects in film and literature?
In adolescent literature, and I do think any story that involves adolescence, including the Star Wars saga, is adolescent literature. We look for 3 things when we're looking to evaluate what a strong female character is. We're looking to see if she has voice. Can she speak out? Or is she silenced? And we're looking to see, does she have choice, or do other people make her choices for her? And does she have community, a community of people who support her? That's what makes a strong female. A feminist female is then one who is able to share power with other people. So it's possible to be a strong female character, but not necessarily feminist. And I have a preference for the characters with voice, choice, and community who can also share their power with people across the gender spectrum.
When you say share your power, what do you mean specifically by that?
Well, I'm thinking, for example, I'm going to just jump right into Star Wars. I think it's very important that Rey has a lightsaber that she doesn't feel ready to use yet, and she shares it with Finn. And then when he no longer can use it, she has gained enough sense of who she is to use it. So there's teamwork there. Another example would be being able to pilot or co-pilot the Millennium Falcon. So not having to be completely in control all the time, but able to share power with other people.
Fascinating. And so for you, and not only you were a professor, but you were also a mother, why is it important to feature these aspects, not only in Star Wars, but just in general?
I do want to say I have 2 sons and a daughter, and my second son did make a very clear point that I tell your listening audience that he is my go-to expert in everything I know about Star Wars. I learned from him, but it is important. It is important to me as a mother and as someone who daily tries to empower my students. I believe in equality, and I want everyone's potential to be met, whether they're my children or they're my students or they're my colleagues. I believe in fairness, and that's what feminism represents to me.
Absolutely. Bethany, what about you? We hear the term strong female character used often when it comes to Star Wars and in analysis of this saga. Why is that important to you, and what does that term mean for you?
The term for me, unfortunately, I associated a good bit with rather caustic arguments on the internet. But if I were given the power to define what feminism means, it would be to me the idea that feminists, who could be men or women, would desire to have equality. So not making women better per se, but just equality. And a strong female character would be one who has a level of independence from the other characters, in the sense that her story is not fully dependent on theirs. So having a female character only to facilitate the plot for the other characters, especially male characters, to me would be a weak female character.
Very true.
I agree with you, bud. Yeah.
And also, and a lot of people have said, just because you're a strong female character does not necessarily mean you are a powerful hand-to-hand combatant or you're good with a lightsaber. There's so much more. Strength is not just about physical strength, although that certainly does come into play.
I think at the heart of what we're both talking about is that word independence. I am always concerned when I see a sole operator, a female who is only able to operate entirely and only by herself and not function within society. Because A, that's not in any way emotionally realistic, and B, it's a false premise. Interdependence, being able to work together as human beings, is super important. But I do love what you said about if the reason you have a strong female is only to facilitate male stories, then that's not my definition of a strong female either.
You know, I will say honestly, a lot of this is outside my realms of understanding. But I'm as we've been doing this podcast for the last almost 3 years now, I've met a lot of friends fans I can call friends now. A lot of folks that have spoken out about this topic, and it's definitely piqued my interest. And Dan and I have had a lot of conversations and such. And of course, you know what, the newness of The Force Awakens and the characters that have come out for that film, I feel like there's been leaps forward, I think, in this movement, and as far as the characters growing. But you mentioned Rey, and I like what you guys said about the character being an independent character and sharing the power, or moving her power in a way that helps others or reach their potential. So how does Rey meet these criteria, and why is she important to the world of Star Wars and pulp culture?
For me, Rey is so fascinating as a character because she is complex. She's not a one-note character, and her storyline, while influenced by all the other characters, is not dependent upon them. So the fact that, to me, she does not fit into a stereotyped box of what a female lead often can be, and that made her so much more interesting for me.
I agree. She's got strength and weakness, and she's complex, and she knows she's got problems. She's not some sort of, male in drag uber superhero. She's a human being, and I love that about her. She is multifaceted, and often Hollywood doesn't let women have that kind of multifaceted dimension.
And I think, too, it's interesting the fact that Star Wars being such a huge franchise in itself through a number of years, that it's debuting a brand new film in its franchise and its mainstream franchise for fans to take into. And like you mentioned, Star Wars is such a huge thing in Hollywood and in pop culture. To have her be such an original character and be able to express these characteristics in a female lead, that's so important, I think, for new fans and young fans coming to this movie and with brand new eyes.
I love how each of the characters in The Force Awakens, they are all very fleshed out as characters, as individuals. We can identify with each of them, but they're each so different. And I'm so happy that applies to Rey as well, because too often characters in Hollywood blockbusters can be very one note. And unfortunately, that happens to female characters more so than male characters, especially if you give any credibility to the Bechdel test. I don't know if
I'm glad you brought that up.
Familiar with it?
Oh yes, I teach it.
Let's talk about that test for those of our listeners who are maybe not familiar with that aspect.
I'm not familiar, just to put it out there.
Go ahead. Bethany, you go ahead.
Okay, wow. I feel a little odd explaining it when you've actually taught this and actually are a professor by profession. But so the Bechdel test, from my understanding, basically examines a work of fiction that has at least two female characters and ask if two female characters talk to each other. Well, first of all, if there are female characters, and then if they talk to each other about something other than the male characters.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
boys
it.
Are cute. That's right.
It's a 1, 2, 3. It's more than two characters. Do they ever have a conversation with each other? There's an amazing number of films where there are two characters who are female, but they don't talk to each other. And then the third big test, and this is where most of the movies with more than two characters who are female fail, do they talk about something other than guys? And it really eye-opening. You go and look at how this is Alison Bechdel, is the feminist and author of Fun Home, who came up with it. It's amazing how many movies fail this test. And I was sitting in the theater, and Dan knows me well enough, he'll appreciate this. I was sitting next to my feminist 18-year-old daughter, and we were like cheering every time that two women talked about something that wasn't a guy. We're like, yay, it's passing the Bechdel test.
That does not make me surprised at all. And I actually had a similar reaction. In fact, Star Wars Rebels, the animated series, follows that criteria rather well. I do want to ask for both of you before we move on to the next question. What about that very seemingly insignificant but not – it was actually rather poignant when they're at the beginning on Jakku and Finn keeps insisting that he has to take Rey's hand. That little interplay there I thought was amazing.
I was going to laugh with Bethany about that. That's actually one of my favorite moments. I don't know how you feel, Bethany, but when she kind of slaps his hand away and keeps saying, I don't need you to hold my hand, or whatever the line is. I don't know, that made me deeply happy. How'd you feel about it, Bethany?
I loved that scene because, and I've had a number of discussions about this scene with people from other cultures who thought it was odd because they assign a different meaning to hand holding than Westerners do. But with that caveat aside, as a Westerner, I don't appreciate it when guys make overtly intimate, be it friendship gestures or more like a boyfriend type gesture when I don't know them. especially if I don't know them at all. But even if I don't know them that well, close friends, I don't mind if they put their hand on my shoulder or something like that, or give me a hand up if I'm sitting on the ground or something. But someone who doesn't know me, I've never appreciated that. So I thought that was hilarious, because that would be my reaction, would be to slap somebody's hand away.
Mine too, and because there's he's physically bigger than she is. He's, they're strangers. There's all sorts of problems with it, and the comedy of it is played, I think, very intelligently. And it was another one of those places where my daughter and I were both cheering.
And it also shows it in such a way that she's not presented as a bully or cantankerous. It's more like, I can take care of myself, no offense to you, but leave me alone, dude. I got this.
I just met you.
Exactly. Like, who do you think you are? Maybe I can help you up.
It's not even...
And she does.
Yeah. And it's not even like... It's not painting Finn in a terrible light either.
No,
it's more like he's so instantaneously smitten with her.
Yes.
And, his childhood was probably so different from hers. We don't necessarily know what a norm for him would be. But, he gets the message eventually.
Yeah, and he's a soldier, He's probably, we can presume, trained to help the weak, Mm-hmm. So there's that dimension of it. But I just think it's priceless the way they present that.
It's smart. There's a lot of examples in this, I think, in this film in general, not just with Rey, but just in general. In fact, one of the things that happened shortly after I saw the movie, I don't know if it's been my third time or how many times since then, but I emailed you, Roberta, and I said, what did you think about The Force Awakens? And your reactions were exciting. And I want to ask you both, and we'll start with you, Roberta. What steps does The Force Awakens take to circumvent sexism in cinema?
The first and most obvious corrective they gave was, again, a place I wanted to cheer. Why wasn't she General Leia in the first place? I loved the promotion to a gender neutral rank. I loved the leadership mantle she's allowed. She's been fighting since 1977. I saw the movie for the first time when I just finished my freshman year in high school. She has been a military leader through every one of, forever. And now we finally get to call her General Leia. So one of the first things I would say they're doing is they're paying attention to symbolic gestures and language that matter. And the second thing I think they're doing, we've already talked about, which is complicating the female characters. And then I would say the third thing we haven't talked about yet, and I hope we will, is assigning unexpected roles like Captain Phasma and Maz Kanata to females. Those functions have always been conducted by male actors in past Star Wars movies, and the fact that you can have a woman who's in charge of the stormtroopers who's really risen in power and really mean. Yeah, you can have that while you also have, Yoda being female, and those things made me really happy, all of them.
And someone wrote an article recently where they talked about the fact that one of the reasons that this is such a strong feminist film that is doing a lot to advance or to avoid sexism is the fact that the gender is important, but it's not the focal point.
Mm-hmm. That's well put. Yeah, I hadn't read that, but that's exactly, I would agree. What do you think, Bethany?
Oh, I definitely agree as well. And I guess if I could take a small step back from the topic, again, it's not, while I am a feminist in the way that I described, it's not to me important that you have an exact percentage of female characters and they all have to be like this, or an exact percentage of minority characters, etc. But the thing that I really want to avoid is the perception of female or minority characters that's traditional in cinema, because it causes something that I heard Dr. Andrea Letamendi talk about once, which is symbolic annihilation. That is, when you don't have groups well represented in media as they are in real life. So in real life, we have a lot of diversity. In media, we don't necessarily. And this subconsciously teaches people who aren't represented in media that their subgroup is not as important, or that their subgroup can't be the heroes, or it's not their norm. So you're sending this message, especially to kids, that, well, it's abnormal for women to be the heroes, or it's abnormal for the African American to be the hero. So it's influencing children's ideas, especially about what they can and can't be, in an indirect but very powerful way. Because storytelling is powerful, so key to the opinions and values that children develop.
That's so true. And I know we spoke a little bit about Leia and in the original trilogy a little bit, but let's go back a little bit to her specifically. In your opinion of Leia after seeing the original trilogy and the following films, how did The Force Awakens impact her arc as well as her role in the Star Wars universe and the cultural as a general?
I think Leia's intelligence and skills as a leader were finally fully recognized. The original trilogy so much more showed Luke's journey from farm boy to hero, from backwater teenager to a mature Jedi Knight, that sometimes we overlook as our own journey. And yes, the original trilogy is largely about Luke's journey, but I love seeing that Leia gets recognized for the powerful character that she is.
I was frustrated when it emerged that they were twins, as opposed to potentially being co-leaders, who were romantically linked, because it meant automatically her brother's story was going to eclipse her, and you really did see gender go under erasure in some of the ways Bethany was talking about. And I should add, as a sort of truth in advertising, I have a twin brother. So
oh, wow.
When I was watching these movies, with him. We saw the first one together. We were 14. We thought, oh, this is cool. And kind of, imaginatively, there was room for both of us to be leaders. But then by the time The Empire Strikes Back, which is a fine movie, and I really enjoyed it, but it was very clear by that movie that, Luke's story was going to far eclipse Leia's. And I found that disappointing when I was a teenager.
Oh, I agree with you. In fact, as much as I've always liked Leia, and of course she's been so iconic for so many years, as the films go on, and really it's similar with the prequels too, with Padme's role. As these three films moved on, their roles, as far as in being a force for action instead of being a result of action, the things that they did as characters was very much lessened. So to see her come back to The Force Awakens as a general and in charge of everything, and just the way she carried herself, it was good to see that she was finally more than just someone with buns in her hair that fired a blaster. There was more to her. Finally, I think it was long overdue.
And it wasn't just, oh, I like me some cute bad boy Han Solo. She really did seem to display a mature love that could also acknowledge, you're a failed human being, I'm a failed human being, and I still love you.
Yes.
And there was a maturity and complexity to their relationship that surprised me.
I'm actually glad to hear you say that, because I've heard a lot of people criticizing not only General Leia, but Carrie Fisher's role. But I thought she did a very well nuanced and controlled power in her performance. Bethany, did you feel the same way?
I thought so too. And for me, I think in a lot of ways, The Force Awakens is the conclusion of Han Solo's story arc. And I hope that with each of the next two movies, we do a larger focus on both Luke's and Leia's characters that will hopefully allow us to see more of Leia as well. I thought that her character was nuanced as well in The Force Awakens. Even though we don't see a whole lot, it's her acting style that shows that, she is devastated by Han's death, and she's very emotionally conflicted. There's grief. There's also guilt and tragedy and the fact that Luke is missing. But she still maintains her hope. She still maintains her facade as a general, or not necessarily a facade, but the fact that she is a general, she has to keep going,
right?
No matter what's happening in her personal life.
She's a grieving mother. I mean, she's a grieving widow, and she is still a general. And that's the way the world works. Real emotions really work like that. We don't get to completely shut down when we're grieving. The fact that she continued in her role so effectively, despite the pain she's feeling, I definitely thought this was a nuanced role.
It was, and go ahead, Bethany.
Oh no! I was just I'm excited that you point that out, because that's her entire character arc. If you think about it, Leia's journey has been one of she lost her, essentially the people who were like parents to her, and her entire home world, and continued on. She lost the person she would be, a mentor and a friend and rescuer in Obi-Wan. She's lost her son. She's lost her brother, who, it could be very understandable if she felt abandoned by Luke. She essentially asked Han to try to rescue their son, which any person who's grieving, even though it's not her fault, she could very easily think that. Her life has had so much tragedy in it, but her character has maintained its strength of character, both in the fact that she's loving, she's kind, she's strong. She hasn't become an embittered person or somebody who has shut down completely or is emotionally compromised. So, and these things aren't necessarily spelled out to the viewer. It's one thing I've always loved about Star Wars is there's no comment on how strong Leia is, because it's there to see if you're watching.
Very well said. Well, let's take a step back. And I knew beyond a shadow of doubt that you two would be absolutely perfect for this. And I'm very curious to pick both of your brains about the merchandising of The Force Awakens. And of course, it was very famous. There were hashtags about it. Where's Rey? There was a severe lack of the presence of Rey. And Roberta, I know I sent you an article about this as well. So how can we impact merchandise? I mean, clearly the easy answer is we'll go buy stuff that has Rey on it. But it's hard to do, isn't it, when there's not as much Rey merchandise as there should be?
I think we really have to tackle head on why is Rey as a toy under erasure in the first place. And it's for some of the reasons Bethany was talking about earlier. But there's also this very misguided and very U.S. American attitude that somehow we're going to affect people's masculinity or femininity, and we're going to affect their orientation by the toys we give them. And I think once we get over our cultural homophobia, we're going to be a lot more comfortable marketing toys of all sorts to all children, because that's what children need, is to be able to have the imaginative play that will direct them to the future, not just only toys that emphasize either masculinity or femininity.
And that's an idea that I hadn't quite thought of, but that makes perfect sense. Bethany, what do you think?
It is. That's a fascinating idea. I'd love
you should be a professor,
Roberta. If there's any research. Exactly. You should teach this stuff. Oh, goodness. But I hadn't actually really thought of that. But that could definitely play a part. Is there's always the marketing sense, as in, companies are out to make money, so they'll do what they think makes money. But there's also the cultural influence as well. So you can always look at the money driver, but also the cultural driver. And that's a fascinating cultural driver that I hadn't really thought of, to be honest. But I think toy marketers, in some ways, behind Hollywood, in the sense that Hollywood is discovering that it's not just sex that sells, but strong, complex characters, including female main characters, also sell. The Hunger Games is a great example of that. The Force Awakens is a great example of that. And other movies that have come out in the past few years. But I think the marketers are a little behind that curve and are just figuring out, oh yeah, there is a market for this. We can actually sell these and we'll make money from them. And it won't just be a small female audience that buys them too. Men and boys and women and girls will.
One of the things that's been most distressing to watch in my professional career is how much more gendered toys are now than they were 30 or 40 years ago. I don't know for sure how old all of you are, but I suspect you're younger than I am. And I'd like to know what color your first bicycles were.
Mine was yellow.
Mine was yellow.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How about you, Bethany?
I think mine was either dark blue or black.
That would be awesome. This is why we're all getting along.
Yeah.
That's
mine
right.
was blue. My brother's was red. But by the time I went to buy my daughter a bicycle in the early part of the 21st century, we found one bicycle that wasn't either pink or purple. Peggy Orenstein has a wonderful book called Cinderella Ate My Daughter, about how marketing gendered toys became a phenomenon that really increased in the 21st century. And it very much is that combination that Bethany talked about of what's driving the dollars. Well, cultural values are driving the dollars. And Toys R Us recently made a proclamation that they're not going to have, or maybe it was Target, one of the stores, they weren't going to gender their toy aisles anymore. That's one step forward, but it's also going to take a lot of parents understanding you really do want your daughter playing with some aspects of masculinity, and you want your son playing with some aspects of femininity because you want balanced children. You don't want the Incredible Hulk for a son, You want your daughter to have a little bit of Incredible Hulk, but you don't want your child to only be one thing.
Right. Absolutely. Multifaceted and more open-minded to possibility. And even with my little boy, he loves Jake and the Neverland Pirates, and he loves Sophia the First. And we're just fine with whatever he wants to watch because it makes him happy. That it's not a definition of sexuality.
No, or even personality.
That's right.
But it is tolerance. It is how tolerance is built. If we tell kids you aren't going to enjoy this toy because it's not the gender you were assigned at birth, it's not for the gender you were assigned at birth, we're really limiting their imaginations in some really, really terrible ways. And it's really something we've only been doing profoundly in this country for the last 20, 25, 30 years. This is if you go back and look at 19th century toys, the folks on the farm all played with the same ball, same sleds,
Absolutely. Yeah, I very much agree with that. And gosh, we could have you both on for so long. And I think you both managed to punch your ticket to be a returning guest because this has been wonderful to have you both on and get your perspectives. And before we let you go, we've got to ask you our 5 questions that we ask each guest on Coffee with Kenobi. They're very much one-word, one-sentence answers, but just kind of to show the commonality of Star Wars for Star Wars fans. And And typically when we have two guests is we alternate back and forth. So we'll just kind of bounce it back and forth. And Roberta, we'll start with you. What is your favorite Star Wars movie?
The Empire Strikes Back.
More than The Force Awakens?
I would put Force Awakens as number 2.
Okay. Fair enough. Bethany, what about you?
Now, traditionally, prior to The Force Awakens, it was The Empire Strikes Back with The Revenge of the Sith being a very close second. With The Force Awakens, though, it'll take me a while to finally settle my final order. And by then, Episode 8 will be coming out, so I'll have to redo it all. But The Force Awakens may be my favorite Star Wars film. So I'm going to have to give it a few more viewings in a few more months, though.
And I may change my mind after I've seen it a couple more times too, Bethany, partly because of our conversation.
Very good. Very good. I'm just so glad that we can spur each other into good conversations and good thought processes. I really enjoyed it so far. So move on to the next question here. Your favorite Star Wars character?
Traditionally, it's been Luke for me. But again, I think Rey may trump that. I need to see more of her story, though.
If I am picking from Force Awakens, I'm going to pick Maz Kanata. But if I'm picking, who I've had a crush on since I was 14, Han Solo. Not Harrison Ford. Han Solo.
I did not know that about you. So were you sad when he was killed?
I was shocked, yes.
I don't blame you. We could go on and on about that for sure. So let's move on to our favorite line of dialogue or film moment. Roberta, we'll have you start on this one.
Well, mine has to be, laugh it up, fuzzball. I say that to my husband all the time.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Bethany, what about you?
Oh, my goodness. It's probably every single snarky, snippy, and sarcastic remark made by Han Solo, to be honest. But this, I've actually never said this on a podcast before, but Padme's line from The Revenge of the Sith where she says, "So this is how democracy dies, with thunderous applause." That means so much to me because it's an entire group of people who should know better. They should all know better, allowing this horrible thing to happen to this galaxy that they've worked so hard to build. And they're doing it out of fear and probably in some ways out of selfishness and just not doing their due diligence. And none of them notice. There are very few actual opponents to Emperor Palpatine at the time. And as a political science nerd, that scene just means so much to me.
That's very
and it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Very good. So the next question I will direct here to Bethany. If you collect, what is your favorite collectible that you own?
Oh gosh, I'm not much of a collector, I'll be fully honest. But I would have to say anything by Her Universe. I love Her Universe clothing and jewelry.
And I don't collect at all, although as I mentioned earlier, one of my sons is very, very into the franchise, and so he does. And I'm going to tell you, it's not really a collectible as much as I really like wearing his Darth Vader mask and voice changer around the house sometimes.
Do the dishes, yeah.
It's your destiny. Do the dishes.
Oh, I can just picture that now.
Yeah, you know me well enough to know it's actually happened.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. What would be great is if you started a class talking about Rey and you brought out that mask. That would be fun.
It would.
So what particular messages or themes about the Star Wars saga resonate or speak to you? Roberta, we'll go back to you with this one.
Well, Bethany just sure made me think about a lot. What you just said about Padme, that I really respect what you just said. But, I was just making fun of Darth Vader and Luke, it is your destiny. And the fact that Luke rejects that and creates his own destiny, that to me is the most important theme, at least in the earlier movies. is it really is, we do have some degree of control over our values and how we choose to live our lives. And I think that's an important theme.
Wow. Well, as always, you get me to think of things in ways I never thought possible. So I appreciate that. Bethany, what about you?
I love what you just said about him rejecting that destiny. And that's a powerful moment in the film, but I don't think I've quite looked at it that way before. I'm going to need to go away and think about that.
See, Corey, what's happening is these two are going to end up being the regular hosts.
Yeah,
of Coffee with
that's right. We're kicked out, yes.
Oh, goodness. I guess my traditionally favorite theme of the Star Wars films is the idea that you can make something out of nothing. It's the hero's journey, but it's not a hero's journey because our hero is wealthy and has powerful parents and all these other things going for him. But it's a hero's journey because in the case of Luke and in the case of Anakin, who did eventually fall, and with Padme and Leia as well, because they both have hero's journeys, they, through their courage, their commitment, their undying faith and hope that what they do matters, that they make something of themselves, and that isn't just about, putting themselves in powerful places, but it's about creating change and creating good in the world. And that's such a valuable message, especially in dark economic times in the U.S. post recession. It's important to know that we can make a difference, that we don't have to just struggle to eke out a living and fight for our own survival. So the message, for example, is very different than The Walking Dead, which is survive.
Right.
So, guys, as we wrap up here, we're going to let the listeners know how they get in touch, each of you, and how they can follow you online and get to know you a little more and follow what you're doing. Go ahead and, Bethany, if you want to start with how they can get in touch with you and some of the products you're working on as well.
Alrighty. You can find me on Twitter at Bethany L. Blanton and on Instagram by the same name. I do a lot of work with the Star Wars Report website and podcast, which you can find at StarWarsReport.com, at Star Wars Report on Twitter.
Hey, Roberta, anything that folks can follow you on?
I am still very 20th century, and most of my work comes out in print. So you can find me at Barnes & Noble under Roberta Trites.
That's great.
All that papyrus stuff. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. Get your abacus out and you'll be able to count the number of pages.
Would you mind reminding me of the title of the book?
Well, Bethany, not only will we remind you, but we're going to put it in our show notes, too.
Yes.
But the first one that I mentioned was Waking Sleeping Beauty, Feminist Voices in Children's Novels. And the second one I mentioned was Disturbing the Universe, Power and Repression in Adolescent Literature. And there are many, many more. The second one, Disturbing the Universe, is particularly near and dear to my heart, isn't it, Roberta?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, that's because I'm in the front.
I was going to say, I believe you were helped in that one.
Yeah.
But I'm working on the sequel to the 20th century feminist book. I'm working on now 21st century feminism.
Oh, wow.
In YA literature. That's my new project. Yeah. So if people truly do want to find me, you can find me through the English department at Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois.
There you go. A fine institution that produces a lot of scholarly individuals.
Indeed.
Yes. No bias in any way, shape, or form. Well, absolutely. Well, thank you both so very much. It is a pleasure and a delight, and thank you for entertaining as well as educating us. I would expect nothing less.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us on. I had a lot of fun with this and learned a lot. I have a lot to go away and think about, which I love.
I feel the same way, Bethany. Thanks for getting me to think good things, all of you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much and have a wonderful evening.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Our topic for show number 52 is the impact of The Force Awakens on the Star Wars saga. How does viewing the saga through The Force Awakens affect the history of Star Wars so far? What do the events and characters mean for the franchise, and how does this impact the series going forward? We also want to explore the impact the film has had both cinematically and culturally. So there's no better guest for this than the author of How Star Wars Conquered the Universe, Chris Taylor. Be sure to send us an email or an MP3 with your thoughts, comments, questions, and opinions to feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com.
I like the sound of that.
Echo 3 to Echo 7. Hano, buddy, do you read me?
I saw part of the message.
I seem to have found it.
For our first email, we have an email from Stephen Kent, and he wrote a review of The Force Awakens for us. He wrote, well, it was fantastic. For better or for worse, it re-engaged fans who were maybe alienated by the prequels by mimicking A New Hope almost beat for beat, starting with a Star Destroyer overhead and ending with a bold aerial attack on a superweapon. I've seen so many dormant fans awaken, and that is great. What's wrong with that is that those of us who never disengaged have now sat through 3 implausible Death Star assaults. Star Wars has to be about more than destroying world WMDs, so that's my minor gripe. For the bigger stuff, the movie was total magic. Rey's daily life on Jakku was captivating and immersive, and May's outpost was out of this world. The best aspect of the movie was what happened with Han and Leia. Seeing Han back in his old smuggler skin was intense, especially seeing him caught between 2 gangs that we normally only hear about in EU books. Han and Leia were never meant to be. They fell in love during a season of life, that being a war. And when the going got real tough, they split. That's so true to real life, and even though it stings, people can relate to that. The pacing of the reveal that they split was perfect. Later on, Han's death was beautifully acted and necessary for the story to continue on. Every trilogy starts with the death of a mentor, so a new hero can have the motivation to rise. Oh, and that lightsaber fight. A return to old form. No dancing moves. No masterful jump kicks. This was 2 Padawan learners having a raw and unpolished brawl. You can feel the passion in a way not even Mustafar had. So those are my thoughts, I guess. It threw some red meat to casual fans to draw them back in, while still offering a challenging and fun story to buy in on. Based on the ending, the story could go anywhere from here. JJ used this chapter to buy some enthusiasm back from fans, and the developing story, which is going to be large in scope, is likely going to cash in on that. And that's again from Stephen Kent. Thank you, Stephen. We appreciate your review and your insights into this, and I agree with you. As I said in our show number 50, which is our review of The Force Awakens, which, by the way, is our most downloaded show ever, which is it makes sense. I had a hard time with another world explosive weapon as well, a weapon of mass destruction. But I understand. I get that. I understand. And I like the perspective on Han and Leia. I think we want to, as romantics, as poets in our lives, we want them to be together. And we don't have the history of, we know why they separated, but we don't know all the ins and outs of that, which is surely going to come out as time goes on. But it was beautiful and really realistic, I thought.
Yeah, it's interesting because, he talks about the fandom being reawakened. And that's a lot of things I've heard from folks and new friends I've met that are into Star Wars, just getting to know them through the film and such. And they just enjoyed it because it reinvigorated their fandom. I think everybody comes with a different perspective. And for me, it's definitely helped me open up about Star Wars more as far as a fan and just be accepting for new possibilities in the franchise and new storylines and new characters. It's really been great for me to enjoy it for what it is. I don't want to go in with it being, relying heavily on, what I wanted it to be. I guess like you mentioned, Han and Leia's perspective, but it falls back on the characters themselves because they're such strong characters. I think J.J. Abrams does a great job of doing that. And like Steven said here, they went about their business. They went back to what they knew, what they were good at. And that's what any normal person, I think, would do, and it's such a situation as war. And I can't speak too much of war, how it's impacted me, but, folks who, have lived through different generations, it's impacted them in different ways. And that's what this film's, I think, about, is about generations and moving forward and looking at your past and becoming who you are and getting in step with that. So very good. Thanks, Stephen, for the email, and can't wait to move forward into episode 8. Our next email comes from Susan Jodin, and she says, I have to thank you for the podcast. I stumbled across another, which I won't name, and may be very well respected, but found that they tended to diss the actors a bit more than I liked. It didn't seem like the way a true fan would talk about the characters and the people who portray them, and the OT no less. So you're a breath of fresh air to me. That's from Susan Jodin. Thank you, Susan, so much for those nice, kind words. I think Dan and I, we try to speak to the characters on a fandom level, and we have our gripes, I think, here and there. But I think all in all, we bring those gripes to the table, I think, just to spur a conversation, perspective, and opinion. I think everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I think that's something that should be talked about. But I think the right aspect. I think the actors themselves are doing a big job of carrying characters that are beloved by very many people. That's a difficult thing to do, I think, especially in Star Wars and any franchise that's has a large following. So I respect the actors that do their due diligence as far as becoming characters that we've grown to love and carry on the torch to new generations and to take that on. And so it's something that I think that people work hard at and should be appreciated for.
And I appreciate your listening, Susan. Welcome so much to the Coffee with Kenobi family. We hope you get a chance to enjoy all the fun shows we've got in our little family, and thank you again so much. Our next email comes from Joe Davidson, and he has another review for us, and this is tied in pretty directly to our review show, which we mentioned before. And he writes, enjoyed the review. Just thought I'd throw in a defense for a few of the characters that personally were not my favorite either, but can see why they were used the way that they were. Captain Phasma. I know the biggest complaint is that she was underused. I never expected her to be used much, even though she was all over the marketing. That might be why her small role didn't bother me. I think a lot of people were transferring Gwendolyn Christie's role as Brienne of Tarth onto Captain Phasma, and expecting the character to be a bad ASS as well. I think her chrome armor is more for show, and Captain Phasma is not the type to get her hands dirty. She barks orders but has no bite. She didn't shoot the villagers but ordered her troopers to do it. She wasn't involved in the attack when Finn fought the stormtrooper. Her lowering the shield when she had a blaster to her head made sense to me given what we've seen from her character in the movie. How she got to be in that position? Well, she's very tall and intimidating. Not too many are going to challenge her. She could also have very well done some backstabbing and butt kissing as well. I've seen several say that they expect big things from the character. I don't. I think she'll continue to play about as big a role as she had in this one. Snoke. I didn't have an issue with this character. This is a character that obviously we'll learn more about as we go. I can wait. The politics. I was good with the level we got. I like the prequels and even enjoy the politics, but I think the trilogy will be more focused on the new characters introduced and the actions surrounding them. Fleshing out the political situation will probably be in books with only tidbits given in the movies. Remember in A New Hope, all we heard was the Emperor has dissolved the Senate. That was really all the politics we knew starting out. Favorite characters, Rey and Han. Favorite moments, that's a tough call. The scene between Han and Rey when he's talking about taking on a second mate makes the scene even more heartbreaking when you've already seen it, or when Rey uses the Force to get the lightsaber. The way it was done in the music, perfect. Anyway, great review. Thank you for podcasting and letting me ramble, Joe Davidson. Well, thank you, Joe, so much for your honesty and your insights into this. As far as Captain Phasma goes, I've had a little bit of time to reflect on this, and I agree that I don't know that she was underused, but I attribute that to marketing more than anything. Mm-hmm. I expect her to have a bit bigger of a role, and I don't see her as someone who tells people to do her work and doesn't get her hands dirty. I feel like she's in the position she's in because she's gotten her hands dirty, and I have no insights or background knowledge to throw any fuel onto that fire. But I just have a feeling that we're going to see a lot more from her. And I'm glad you pointed out that scene with Han literally passing the baton to Rey, giving her that weapon. I love that scene too, even though I didn't quite put it into words until I read this email. So thank you, because that is a beautiful scene. And it's very much a passing of the torch and a generational thing too.
Yeah, as much as we've talked about some of these minor characters not having such larger roles, and maybe it was the marketing, maybe it was just the way things are done. The more I think about the characters in the film, aside from the marketing, they go mesh together. This wasn't Captain Phasma's story. This wasn't Snoke's story. This was, Finn and Rey and Poe and, these new characters' stories and carrying the Skywalker legacy. I'm part of that now. That's the way I feel. Aside from even the politics too, it's those kind of things that, was meant to be for this film. That was the story they're telling for this film. Now, the next film, I can't say. Like I said, we don't know much about it, obviously, and only time will tell. But I would hope these characters would come forward and tell their stories, and they'll take some more of the spotlight. I think it's just the way this film went. I think that's the way they always intended it, and as more of a, they're looking to introduce these characters. A lot of introductions in this film, and so I think it's grabbing onto that and enjoying the ride. Our next email comes from Britt Sattel, and he says, "Hey friends, so I've been following you guys a while on Twitter, but have never actually listened to any of the podcasts. Last week, my wife and I had to put our family dog down. We were devastated. I need to listen to something at work to get through the day and at night to get me through the night. I downloaded a Stitcher to my phone and started listening to your podcast with episode 1. I'm up to episode 27, admittedly skipping some of the episodes about Rebels since I don't have cable and can't watch it. Episode 27 was amazing. I continue to listen practically every day. Thank you so much for helping me through this hard time. I wish I could incorporate Star Wars more into what I do, but as an attorney and compliance officer, it's a little hard. Thank you, a new loyal fan and listener." And that's from Britt Sattel. Thank you, Britt, so very much. Wow, it's really touching, and I'm so glad we could be part of your life and be able to help you through that difficult time, even if it's just to get your mind off the current situation. Yeah, we just, like you said, Danaway's been just a champion to have her voice in a podcast and be able to have a good time and have talk about Star Wars and just be fans. And I would appreciate your kind words there. And thanks for listening. And thanks for starting at episode 1.
Yeah, and it was great that he sent this. This email particularly was touching to me because just the fact that we're able to help you get your mind off stuff. I mean, Star Wars really is wonderful, but it's really just a distraction. I mean, like a pleasant, beautiful distraction.
Oh, yeah.
So it's something that can be positive, and it's really neat, too, that I always think it's amazing that people will take the time to go back and download our past shows. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure in this email where Britt is at now in the listening, but it's great. Welcome to the Coffee with Kenobi family, and you'd be surprised how much you can incorporate Star Wars into your professional life. I mean, as a teacher, it may seem at first blush to be easy to do, but it can be challenging because, as Anthony Bresnikan said on our coffee chat, man does not live on Star Wars alone. So even little references or ideas and the motifs and metaphors in Star Wars are so relatable in so many ways. So any ideas you have or ways to incorporate that is a lot of fun. And again, thanks so much for joining the Coffee with Kenobi family. Our last email comes from Jeff Wiley, and he had a question for us, and he writes, "Hey guys, I've been listening to the podcast for a while, and I really enjoy them. I have a question that I have had for a while, and I thought you would be a great person to ask this to. I'm of the belief that once Disney established their own canon, that the Legends books will be discontinued completely. My preferred book format is electronic, but this belief has prevented me from purchasing Star Wars books in anything but print format. I believe this will take place by the time Episode 9 hits theaters. In your opinion, am I being paranoid, or do you or anyone else in your circle believe this to be a very real possibility? Thank you in advance. Keep up the great work, Jeff Wiley." And Jeff, to me personally, I don't think that they're going to do this. And again, it's not, this is maybe semantics, but it's not that Disney established their own canon. It's more that Lucasfilm said, because Lucasfilm calls the shots, trust me. Lucasfilm calls the shots. And they said, hey, the movies and Clone Wars were canon, Rebels is too. Now everything going forward, we have our story group, it's all going to be canon. The Legends books have always been legends. They've always been wonderful. And for that reason, I don't think they're going away, whether it's electronic or paper, because they still make money. And they're still good stories. And we're seeing now with The Force Awakens and with Rebels and the comics and things like that, that they're borrowing and mining rather heavily from the Legends line in beautiful, poignant ways. So I think, Jeff, again, I don't have any insights into this per se officially, but I don't think that the Legends books that you enjoyed are going anywhere.
Well, I'll just quote a famous character from Star Wars that said something recently that really touched me. And it's Ahsoka from season 2. She says, "There's always a little bit of truth in Legends," and that's really
not an accident.
No, not an accident, exactly. And Dave Filoni's a big champion of that era, and obviously a lot of those books. And he definitely listens to fans and tries to incorporate the most he can, I think, from every aspect of Star Wars and the saga. And he does a wonderful job of it. And the team there do excellent. I mean, couldn't say more. But yeah, these books aren't going to go away. They're just not. It's, it's going to be captured into a generation that grew up with them and going to champion them on. And, purchasing them through electronic or through paperback book is up to you. I would suggest audiobook if you're looking for maybe a different format, a different way to digest some of the information, or maybe pick up some of the new books. And it's interesting to see it that way. It kind of gives you a story in your mind, listening to it, and obviously doing other things along the way. That's how I do it. It's kind of fun. But if you're interested, check out Legends Library. Randy and Luke do a great job of hosting a lot of those books, kind of dissecting those and getting to the nitty gritty of some of those. So if you're interested checking those out, suggest you check out them. Thanks very much for the email.
Chewie, get us out of here!
If you would like to respond to our question of the show, have a comment, or just want to say hello, send us an email or MP3 at feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. Or if you have a specific question or comment for either of us individually, email us at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com or coryc@coffeewithkenobi.com, or visit us at coffeewithkenobi.com and click on the Contact Us section or comment on one of the stories featured on the site. If you enjoy the show, please write a review in iTunes or Stitcher. You can also like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, as well as keep up to date at our Twitter feed at coffeewithkenobi. You can also find us on Tumblr at coffeewithkenobi.tumblr.com. If you enjoy the jazz music, the album is Eye to Eye by Steve Torok.
Give the evacuation code signal.
That's it for show number 51 of Coffee with Kenobi. A huge thank you to Bethany Blanton and Professor Trites for joining us and discussing feminism in Star Wars. Be sure to listen and subscribe to Star Wars Report for in-depth analysis of Star Wars news. And for more information on feminism, be sure to check out our links to Roberta's books in our show notes.
A special shout out to Connor Daniels, Joe Taylor, Dennis Keithley, Angela Souse, Neil Lowry, Mediocre Jedi, Mike Winder, Daniel, Aaron Harris, Mark Suter, Jesse, and Mike Audette for their contributions to our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page. By supporting our Patreon page, you help our show in so many ways. You can also win a Coffee Chat podcast of your own. Check out our webpage or the show notes for more information. You can also support our show through our Amazon.com, Fandango, Cufflinks.com, Her Universe, and Zach Designs affiliate links on the site. Thank you for your generosity to our Coffee with Kenobi family.
Thanks also to our media specialist, Lisa Dillard, our Coffee with Kenobi bloggers, Nick DeCalandria, everyone who contributed to this show, and to all of you out there who listen and email Coffee with Kenobi. Don't forget to send us your comments and opinions on the topic for show number 52, The Impact of The Force Awakens.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
There's no one here. Move along.